Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we got ourselves a track from an act named CHAW titled EVOL NOMED or Demon Love. And if we switch over to here, we got ourselves a track on the screen here, the music video for it. I should note that this is not the first time that I've checked out their work. I've previously reviewed the release of theirs titled Promosexual, so it'd be good to check out more. We're going to listen through this track from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it.
Late at night when I sit down to write, I'm visited by a demon that I once knew in life. I never struggle, there's no reason to fight. I willingly let him in, he inhabits my mind. Never unpleasant, just a pleasure of mine. He offers me his vision, lets me see through his eyes. He offers me assistance, helps me see through the lies. He shows me every wolf within a sheepish disguise. I bestow upon you all the wisdom of ancients. Your hand is now my hand, so be it steady and patient. You are now successor of these syllables sacred. Let these curses you unleash be ever blatant and flagrant. Now when I'm in battle, it's my lyrics that I wield. My mic is my sword and the demon's love is my shield. I see the beauty of the battle, the crux to every kill. The yellow on their bellies when advancing armies yield. I boil them in oil till their spoils of war's revealed. Survivors that surrender bow before me as they kneel.
Praise the double tracking on the vocals.
Upon every battlefield, yet I must thank the demon for the secrets of my skill. I bestow upon you all the wisdom of ancients. Your hand is now my hand, so be it steady and patient. You are now successor of these syllables sacred. Let these curses you unleash be ever blatant and flagrant. I bestow upon you all the wisdom of ancients. Your tongue is now my tongue, so be it piercing and shameless. You are now the heir to an honor so heinous. May those slain by your pen never die painless.
Oh, great adjustment of bassline riff here.
Devil's dawn, coming up never stop on me.
May everything you fathom, may everything you need be bestowed upon you as it's laid down at your feet. You may have it all and more of everything you dream, as long as you offer your loyalty to me. Now that the demon, he lives in my mind, there's no distinction between he and I willingly gave him the keys to my soul. Beware the demon lying that God's
Very used to reverb delay tails on that to kind of make it ring out. Sick. That was a great tune. Lots of variety in it compositionally, and a solid performance. We're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act titled CHAW, titled EVOL NOMED or Demon Love. In this section, we're going to provide an overall song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do I think this track is about? I think this track is more about the inspirations of the people that are in the band, the vocalist and the other musicians as well, with the demon on their shoulder there, in turn for giving them the power to sort of move forward, kind of communicating these lines and finding their sort of like inner locus that way, being a source of inspiration, I suppose. There, they mention you know, like the demon kind of like talking about, you know, letting the human be their tongue and stuff like that. It being sort of like an interesting kind of like a codependent sort of situation there. And it gets to the point where they mention being sort of like unable to be separated, which sort of implies that they're fully embraced that kind of demon love there, and that more of the music and more of the inspiration and more of their art is going to come from that place there, you know. I think that's cool if that's the case. Like, it's an interesting thing to talk about within a track, and I feel like there would be people who can sort of like be down for that and vibe with that. The vocal performance is consistent, not just across this track, but also with previous tracks that I've heard from CHAW, such as through Primosexual and the like. It's just really tight with this kind of, there's this kind of menace and malice to the way that we communicate to the audience, and I like that kind of like grittiness to it. It makes it seem like you're in a sort of a dangerous, tenuous situation there. There's like a kind of a spice in this which kind of reminds me some of kind of like the thrash metal I heard back from like the 90s and 80s and stuff like that. There's also these additional sort of vocal takes and growls and screams and calling out moments there that especially like near the end where things kind of reverb and kind of delay out. And there's a double tracking that continues throughout the entirety of the piece there that splits between the sides of the stereo field there and just makes the vocals sound huge as well, which is neat. We're comfortable on a head and chest voice. The words come through clearly. And we have a bit of vocal fry such as around the 1:08 mark there, which sounds like nice and heavy and suits a lot of the distorted guitar, bass and drum elements. There's even some sort of fry stuff going on around that 2:22, which kind of becomes almost sort of like a bit Pantera-ish, you know, in the approach. But it kind of goes between like conversational and far more intense, and I think we may even be sort of like having a demon's perspective at some points vocally as well. Like they're talking over the track there, and I think that's just good storytelling. So ultimately I think the vocal technique across the board is tight. The track itself at 3 minutes 11 is sort of like well fleshed out. There's a variety of different riff space lines and drum beats in there, as well as vocal takes, and it's not predictable. It fills itself in neatly. The transfers are seamless, and no, I don't think there's a note out of place. It starts with this kind of plexi guitar riff there, these strummed like clean electric guitars there that are playing some bar chords, and the vocals come in again conversationally over top of it, and you're instantly led into the kind of the meat of it. There's some really elegant drum fills as we pepper through things, such as like literally within the first 5 seconds with a mixture of different kind of 16th, 8s, snares and tom patterns. And like the toms go around the stereo field as well, which is kind of neat there. They kind of bob backwards and forwards. It's just something nice to kind of follow around as you listen through the piece. The bass is relatively subtle in this in some parts, at least in the beginning stages. I think it gets a bit more intense later on, but there's dynamic range to that and I appreciate it. Nice use of unison notes and some bendy bits as well around the 30-second mark when the rhythm distorted guitarists come in there, and I like the fact that we're messing around with some pentatonics and chromatic notes outside of the minor orient there. There's also moments where you simply have no guitar, like they don't just whole tone or whole note the entire time. There's like moments of pause there before they come back in with some on-beats and syncopated patterns, and there's a great sense of rhythmic unison between the different parts of the instrumental patterns. I like how we kind of vary our tails on our rhythm parts on the guitar as well. They're going between different like repetitions of it, not allowing those kind of like chops to become too stale. And I also think it was good to sort of adjust the chord progression around the 1:50 mark, simply to allow there to not have the 3 minutes of the same kind of main concept. Not that we like slept on it or anything like that, but just especially that, you know, like without a lead element that you just kind of appreciating the groove of those power chords there, the kind of sizzle of that satisfying loop going between those parts of the diatonic. And there's a whole lot of interesting sort of like upper kind of like element guitar parts there we decorate with the mid-range of the guitars, not going again for a lead pattern, but just simply making the use of their extended range. And the drums as well are kind of like feisty through that bit as well, peppering it with different snare and tom transitions, as well as just kind of pocketing with the snares, kicks and crashes and hi-hats throughout the rest of the piece. And as we go through the track sheet, the drums get more and more intense. There's some really kind of frenetic double kicking near the end, which goes neatly in time with the tremolo picking those distorted guitars. I like the adjustments of intensity there. Really kind of like fast on the rides as well there, like it's very spicy. So it's an interesting combination of elements there with the style of vocals that we're doing, and amongst those different distorted rhythm guitarists there occasionally going into the upper range, the bass being relatively supportive and the drums being quite articulate throughout with, again, lots of different chops and beats. Really not sleeping on it, but again, I do appreciate again that we were kind of pocketing around that earlier part of the track just to kind of have a gentle kind of like adjustment of like the intensity throughout the piece, like a crescendo as we went along, almost in the sense that as we learn more about the demon and the power that they had over top of the person, the gravity of the situation went further up. Thematically though, minor oriented makes complete sense to me. No need to have gone anything other than minor or even like Phrygian with the flat seconds and stuff with this one. Bit of, again, bluesiness going on with some of those note choices as well there, which was kind of neat. So again, a mixture of kind of like heavy sounding riffs that Don't overcomplicate the harmonies with extensions because I don't think there's a need to. With the vocals being predominantly sort of like less focused on melody and more on the noise texture and rhythm and cadence of it, you simply have the force and the power behind it. And a lot of the rhythm sections kind of allow or make up for a lack of complexity and harmonies in a way that's quite satisfying. Outside of the theme though, in terms of studio production there, and with different chord progressions, which I appreciate throughout this 3-minute track, you have the guitar, bass, vocals, and drums nicely balanced with also some like turntablism occasionally and stuff like that. There were no weird resonant frequencies in the free spectrum. Music surrounded you in the headphones there, especially those vocals and all the tom parts that go backwards and forwards. There's dynamic range to the piece there from a compositional perspective anyways. Nice and loud bass compression limiting is handled. And again, the vocals are not overproduced. They've got the presence that they need to. And I do like the sound of the room mic with the drums as well. It kind of makes it seem a bit more sort of grounded and organic. No applicable constructive critique for me. I just feel like this is another really good example of their work, and from a final general listener's perspective, it's just been nice to sort of like listen through CHAW's discography so far. I think that they've got their own kind of niche that they're building up, and I feel like if they continue to explore the possibilities instrumentally and can, like, it was great to hear again some of those percussion elements today were really neat, and I like the variety. I like all the different styles of vocals that we do. I think if we continue to explore those and develop over time, we're going to go to some really cool places. But thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named CHAW titled EVOL NOMED, Demon Love. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need to help more than ever with the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.